Greetings everybody and welcome to Madrid Ball. I hope you all are safe and sound. Club football is about to return in a matter of days. It's been a rather long international break. Some players have enjoyed it by winning silverware. Some players have criticised the governing bodies for treating the players like machines and trying to milk as much money as possible. I'm referring to the coach of Thibaut Courtois, who is not currently happy with the situation where the players are being tested to the limit. In recent times we've also seen Toni Kroos sharing similar views, but coming to the matters related to Real Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti has a Clasico around the corner. It will be held on the 23rd and Real Madrid absolutely need to get their heads in the right place and get a win before we travel to the Camp Nou. It's going to be a packed stadium. Mundo Deportivo recently confirmed that 100% crowd attendance will be allowed from now on. So certainly the atmosphere that we have missed dearly in the past COVID hit here, that will be back. The Madrid players will probably get a hostile reception from the crowd, but that being said, Real Madrid are looking like the better team going into the fixture. We're all aware of the hardships that the current Barcelona squad is facing, but Real Madrid have their own issues as well. Specifically in the centre-back area, Ancelotti did have some minor concerns. We do have news on the starting centre-back pair, which will be covered in this video, and what we are going to do here is that we'll analyse what is wrong with Ancelotti's defensive structure. What exactly is the problem which is making us look defensively unstable? It is a thing that needs addressing, and we'll also have some of the Madridistas speak their mind on the defensive aspect of the side. So it's going to be a long video. We do have a lot to discuss, and let's get started. Firstly, if we start by talking about the injuries that the two centre-backs were facing, Eder Militao had returned from international duty with a muscular injury. The Brazilian was taken off in the 70th minute in a 0-0 draw against Colombia, and Marca had informed us that Militao was suffering with a muscular issue in his right leg. It also caused some serious doubts about the availability of Militao in not only the Champions League match against Shakhtar, but also the first El Clasico of the season, and Globo, which is a media outlet in Latin America, had also informed that Militao would surely miss the two high-profile matches after the international break. But as things turned out, both news outlets were wrong on the situation. You can see here, Militao has returned to training, and it is looking likely that he'll be ready for the Shakhtar game as well. That's definitely going to be a huge boost for Ancelotti, considering that Militao has been one of the first names in the side this season. Ancelotti has shown a lot of faith in him, and it's great news that the injury of Militao was not a serious one. And moving on to the next centre-back, David Alaba, there were also some concerning rumours coming out of the Spanish press, where David Alaba had also returned from the international duty with a knock, and certainly the alarm bells were ringing when the news broke out, because David Alaba has just turned out to be a fundamental part of Ancelotti's side. The Italian finds Alaba to be a dependable player. He almost looks like the leader in the back line, and Ancelotti appreciates the versatility that Alaba has brought since joining Madrid. And Madridistas, the good news here is that all the concerns over the fitness of Alaba was just a false alarm. The Austrian has not suffered a serious blow, and going by the reports which are out there on the internet, David Alaba will be fit to play when Real Madrid take on Shakhtar in the coming week. He most probably would feature in the match against Shakhtar, and that's a big sigh of relief for Ancelotti. It does seem that Real Madrid have started a new season, but the injury curse of the previous season is still hanging over the Los Blancos. The situation has been so bad that Ancelotti has not even had a chance to feel his strongest back four, and that is one of the reasons why we have been so fragile defensively. We're playing men out of position, attempting to compensate for the unavailable players, but here I would also like to speak about the tactical views that I have regarding the defensive woes. We are all aware of it. We have been fuming in games seeing such poor defending, but if I make an attempt to constructively criticize Carlo Ancelotti, I'd like to speak about the high line that Ancelotti often uses in this defensive structure, and before talking about it in the context of Real Madrid, let's understand the prerequisites of playing a high line. What are the ingredients required to play such a tactic? We shall discuss it one by one. When a manager decides to set up in such a fashion, the player profile that is required are two ball-carrying centre-backs and two full-backs on either side who would switch to wing-backs as well in order to assert their aggressiveness on the pitch. The second thing which is required is intense focus and complete coordination between the defenders. The defenders at all stages need to align properly, which would help in making the offside trap effective. The attackers who try to go past the last defensive line would often find it difficult to break the offside trap. The third requirement is a sweeper keeper, someone who would be comfortable to come out of the penalty box and take care of any defensive lapse from the high line. Manuel Neuer is a classic example of someone who plays this role very well. Those who have seen Bayern Munich over the years will surely understand what I'm trying to say. We have often seen him running out and heading or kicking the ball out of danger, and that is a crucial aspect that the sweeper keeper importantly has to take care of. The fourth requirement is having a midfield which would exhibit coordinated press and would have a lot of energy and movement in the play. And the final ingredient which would be required to play a high line is pressing from the front. The attackers have a significant role to play. Without the ball, the team would attempt to stay compact. They'd give less passing options to the opposition team, and this prevents the team from getting breached through the center of the pitch. So those are the points that the manager has to keep in mind in order to play the high back line. In recent times, we have seen many sides have effectively used use this tactic. You talk about the dominance exhibited by Bayern recently. You talk about the game of Liverpool a few seasons back, which demanded high energy and focus from the players. You talk about Guardiola's Bayern and Barcelona. All these teams have used this method, and most often than not, they have found immense success. So you can understand the tactic of high defensive line is an attractive one, which many managers look to implement. But if we see how Real Madrid have used it in recent times, we can say we haven't found the optimum balance, and on many occasions we have not had the players which are required to play out this tactic. First and foremost, the defensive line of Real Madrid has constantly been changing due to injuries. There haven't been enough game time where the defenders would be totally comfortable with the movement of each other, and since the personnel also keeps changing, it is a bit difficult to attain the coordination level required to play such a high line. The second requirement is having a sweeper keeper to come out of the penalty box and help out the defense on occasions, but knowing Thibaut Courtois, he's a fascinating shot stopper and he has been improving with the ball at his feet as well, but I'd still say Courtois needs more improvement on the ball if we are to categorize him in the list of sweeper keepers. We have recently seen him struggling when he was asked to come out of the box when the defense was caught, and that is the reason why I think Courtois is not the most suited keeper to play a defensive high line. The third issue is that in the midfield we do not have systematic pressing in place. Players like Casemiro have underperformed, Modric has not been at his best, and to be honest, at times the pressing has just been disgraceful. Probably Valverde is the only one whom I'll give some credit for giving his all in games. And lastly, if we talk about the pressing from the front, all the attackers have to be extra motivated to put in the effort and attempt to win the ball as soon as possible. All the players need to give their 100%. We can't lay any blame on Benzema because he has been simply sensational, but the likes of Hazard, Bale, these players can attempt to put in some extra effort to close down the opponent quickly. So those are the reasons why Real Madrid have failed to execute defensive high line, and we have often seen Madrid getting torn apart in many instances. Obviously, I also think there has been a dip in the concentration level of players individually as well. Some players have been underperforming, but it is evident Ancelotti also needs to get some work done on the tactical side of the game. He needs to make a few changes in his approach. Maybe Madrid will be much more stable if Ancelotti pushes back the defense by a few meters. It may give the defenders some more time to cope with the incoming attacks, but we also have to think about the effect that it's going to have on the attacking aspect of a game. I understand it's not that simple. Football is a simple game full of passion, but only the best ones get a grip of the tactical aspect of the game, and Ancelotti has achieved success over the years, but how effective will he be this time round? We can only wait and watch. The good news for Ancelotti is that it's still early in the season and Ancelotti does have some time in hand. I'll be very happy if we can fix this issue before the round of 16 of the Champions League, but of course in the short term as well, we have seen pressure has been piling up on Ancelotti. He definitely needs some good results in the coming week, because as you all know, it's not all rosy in the Spanish capital. So those are my thoughts on the defensive issues, and now I would like to ask the other Madridistas of the channel to come forward and speak their mind about the team. We will be firstly joined by Mr. Rahul Kumar. I'd like to know your thoughts on the problems we have in the right back position. It's quite evident that we do have a problem there, and do you think it's high time that Real Madrid look for a replacement for Dani Carvajal?
Daniel Carvajal. The guy is 29, and at this age a player is usually expected to play at the peak of his powers, but this guy hasn't. One of the main reasons, or probably the main reason for this to happen, is that this guy has been constantly going through different kind of injuries for the past 2 years, and that has prevented him to play at the level that we expect him to. So it's pretty clear that this guy can't be relied upon for a stretch of a whole season, and therefore we need to look for different solutions for that spot. Now, Lucas Vazquez hasn't been convincing this season, and I think he can do a pretty decent job at the position at times, but I don't think he can play there for a whole season, each and every game, so I don't think he can do that. Also, we've seen that Nacho has been preferred in the right back spot by Ancelotti, so we don't really have a player in our squad who's good enough and can play for a stretch of a whole season. So this is where the transfer rumours comes in. So the names which I've heard or read over the past few days have been Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, and Pedro Porro, who's on loan from Man City to Sporting, I guess. Trent and Reece are quality players in my opinion. They play a pretty important role for their respective clubs in the Premier League, and there's a general notion that English homegrown players don't really like to move abroad, so I'm not going to really bet on their move to Real Madrid. Also Pedro, I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen much of this guy. I've watched some highlights and he looks pretty good going forward, so it might be a good option for us. Let's see. Another option which hasn't been talked about enough is Marvin from Castilla. I think he was played at the right back spot a couple of times by Zidane, and I think he did pretty decent. So I'd like Ancelotti to give him a couple of chances and see how it goes. So yeah, those were my thoughts on the right back position, and we'll see what happens.
Alright, well explained, Mr. Rahul Kumar. Thank you for your thoughts. And coming to the next Madridista we have today, Mr. Prince. Welcome back to the channel. As you know, in today's video, we are solely focusing on the defense. And what I would like from you is please express your thoughts on Eder Militao. I personally have not been happy with how Militao has started this season. Maybe my expectations from him was a little bit more. But what is your take on his performance?
Right now, he doesn't look like the player that he was last season because he's not really consistent. He's been making some mistakes a lot. I don't really know what's going on, but I think that the season is still early. I think he can change and do better. But right now, he's not consistent, you know. I think that I think he can become the player he was last season, though. He can definitely improve and become a better player.
Yes, Mr. Prince, I totally agree. I think we can get more consistency from Eder Militao, especially the way he ended the previous season. He raised our hopes with that, but I don't think he has asserted himself the way he would have liked this season. So yes, we would be looking for more from Eder Militao. And Mr. Prince, would you like to add anything more?
Yeah, I think that he can improve and he can become a better player, but right now it's going to be hard because he has a lot of responsibilities since Ramos and Varane left. I know that the club is counting on him right now to become a better player for the future. But right now, this season, he hasn't really done too much. He hasn't really become the player that the fans are waiting for him to become, you know.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. There's plenty of room for improvement, and will Militao live up to the billing? Well, right now, we can only be cautiously optimistic on that. But continuing on the topic of centre-backs, we have seen recently our club has been linked to a number of players. But here, I'd like to ask Mr. Romani, who are the few centre-backs that you think Madrid should bring in? We definitely need a few quality players there, and who do you see as the perfect fit at Madrid?
Okay, so the first one on my list is Wilfried Fofana, and my main reason of picking Fofana is I got pretty much a lot of reasons, to be honest, and the first reason I'm going to pick is, of course, age, and the price that we will be getting him for is not that expensive, so that Madrid can focus on more attacking threats, the likes of maybe Haaland. And another reason I'll say is his physicality in his game. He's quite tall, like 6'3", 6'4", very strongly built, like say Ronald Araujo of Barcelona. He has got, and the thing that made him stand out is his ability to dribble, which centre backs usually don't. But his dribbling ability reminds me of let's say Date Upamecano. He's the guy can literally play as a CDM as well. The reason being his press resistance. He can carry the ball so easily from the back line that he makes such a press resistant centre back. And another reason I'll say is we get something in between, like with the physicality of Ronald Araujo in him, and something like the press compressibility, the press resistance that Upamecano offers, and he's a pretty solid defender as well. He's got great awareness. The one thing I do see him lacking is that composure in the sliding tackle part, but I do think that he can improve. He's such a young lad now. So that's all the reasons I'm putting in my list. So the next one on my list is the one that the famous YouTuber, Mr. T for Football, also recommended to be the perfect replacement for Sergio Ramos, and his name is Milan Skriniar of Inter Milan. We did see his brilliance when Madrid faced off against Inter recently. And I have to say, the guy, 188 centimeters tall, fairly tall for a centre back. The reason I'm putting him in that category of replacing Ramos is, first of all, very strong. Second of all, the most Ramos thing in him is his passing. The way he switches the play from one flank to the other, something that Sergio Ramos used to do. Varane and other defenders couldn't, but Ramos, we know, is one of the best forward passers of the game when it's come to the CB position. And after that, the way he switches his play is something exceptional, that every team needs such defenders that got great forward passing rates. And the big fan I am of his defensive composure and how he reads the game so well. Something that I saw in Ramos, something that we see regularly in Van Dijk. That composure, that ball intelligence, that little reflexive part of defense, that little arch part of defense is what I find great in Skriniar. The demerit of picking him up is I think he does struggle against quick forwards. So that's the main reason I'm putting him in my list to replace Sergio Ramos.
Yes, Mr. Romani, both Fofana and Skriniar look like good options. I was particularly impressed with Skriniar recently, and to be honest, he has been recognized as one of the best for quite some time now. So in my opinion, he would be a great addition and his defensive qualities would be perfect for Madrid. But coming to the next transfer rumour, Mr. Romani, I'd also like to know your thoughts on the Chelsea defender who is strongly being linked to Madrid. Antonio Rudiger, do you think he would be a good addition going forward?
Of course, Mr. Antonio Rudiger. Just like the David Alaba situation, Madrid is looking to get a defender on a free loan. Not a loan, sorry, on a free. Just like Mr. David Alaba arrived, we can get a pre-contract with Mr. Antonio Rudiger as well. And it will be a very great thing for the club. Because if you look at the moment, the most competitive league in the world, although we are Madridistas, we have to accept that the most complete and the most competitive league, the league that attracts the most people, is the Premier League. And if we talk about the Premier League, the two defenders that stand out the most, one is of course for sure Virgil van Dijk. Joel Matip has been pretty good as well, Ruben Diaz as well, but I will have to mention Antonio Rudiger. The way he plays, you talk away, it'd be the last year's Chelsea famous winning the Champions League. That too, Antonio Rudiger, a big part of Thomas Tuchel's system. And I do think he will be so good in filling in that Sergio Ramos role. I'll not say I will. I do think that Sergio Ramos and Antonio Rudiger are two very different players, because Ramos is more composed in passing, Rudiger isn't. Rudiger is quicker than Ramos, maybe stronger than him, but one thing that Rudiger does as good as Ramos, I will say, is some dirty work. That dirty work is something that Madrid is missing. Casemiro's got great burden, although I do think Casemiro is not being used to his best of his abilities by Mr. Carlo Ancelotti like he was under Zinedine Zidane. But of course, it's not about Casemiro. But I will say Rudiger coming for free, probably one of the best defenders in the Premier League. Absolute bargain of a deal. Madrid should go for him, but I do think they'll be facing a lot of competition for a world-class defender. He's played in Germany as well. He plays pretty well for the German national team. He's 28, peak of his bars. I do think Madrid should do everything in their power to bring Antonio Rudiger to Madrid.
Alright, thank you Mr. Romani, and we have come to the end of our discussion for today. The rest of you, do let me know what do you think about the topics that have been discussed in the video. We have touched upon a number of things today. It was probably my longest video, but as always, the video will be incomplete without the precious thoughts that you people put in the comments below. I'll see you soon. Till then, take care. Glory to Madrid, and as always, Ala Madrid.